It's not supposed to do that. Welcome back to the channel. We have got a lot of work to do on the Toyota. So I haven't done anything since the last time you saw it because I've been getting a bunch of parts, but we do have a lot of things to do. We have to change the U-joints and the carrier bearing, and I'll show you that in just a minute. We've got some other suspension work to do, and we're still waiting on parts for that. And then we have both the valve covers are leaking on the motor. You can see down here. And down along here, there's quite a bit of oil coming out, and to the point that it's dropping down on the manifolds, and so you can smell it when you're driving. And it's a pretty big job because you got to take the intake manifold off, but we're going to take that opportunity to replace all the gaskets as well as do the spark plugs, spark plug wires, and a bunch of other things. So, but let me get you to the point of this video. So I noticed right after I bought it that there was a bunch of vibration coming from the driveline, which is sometimes common, until I got under here and I did this. It's not supposed to do that. So that carrier bearing is kind of hard to replace because you got to take the drive shaft out, you got to take the cardigan joint apart at the drive shaft, and so we're going to use this opportunity to put new U-joints at the transfer case end and at the axle end, and we'll put a new carrier bearing on and we'll bring you guys along. So if this is something you're interested in, please stick around for the video. Alright, so to get the drive shaft out, you basically only need a 14mm socket, a 14mm wrench, and either a socket wrench or an impact, which is what I'm going to use. The bolts can be kind of stubborn depending on how long they've been on. So everything is a 14, including the bolts that hold this carrier bearing up. So these are 14, the backs are 14. As you can see, I've already taken off 3 of them, and we just have that one last one to do, and I'll kind of show you how I do it. You just take the back end of the wrench, put that on there, an impact gun, and it comes right off. And then I always put the nut back together with the bolt, just so nothing gets lost. You might also want a dead blow hammer to try and get this. Sometimes it can be a little bit stubborn. So it's the same thing on the front, on the transfer case side. We're going to take them all out but one. And if you put the transmission in neutral, make sure you just brace the front wheels if you don't have the e-brake on in the back. And just take them off one at a time. Alright, now it's just the 2 bolts for the carrier. Just support it. That wasn't so hard. The drive shaft is out, and that actually feels pretty good. We're going to replace that U-joint anyway, but you can see here that is not supposed to happen. And so that, I think, is most of all of the driveline vibration that we have. But we're going to go ahead and replace the U-joint in the front and the rear. And we'll show you how we do that. So the first step we have right now is we got to separate the cardigan joint. And again, that's 14 millimeter nut and bolt, and we'll do that real quick and show you the two halves. These cardigan joints can be kind of difficult to get the nut bolts out of, so even with a swivel it's almost impossible to get this in to be able to get any leverage on it. So what I've done is I use two 14 millimeter wrenches and a little bit of a rubber mallet, and it seems to work pretty good. I'll show you how I get the last one out. So two 14 millimeter wrenches, you just take one here, and that one that way, and all you gotta do is just hold it and beat it down. Now, I always like to mark the orientation, so this shaft was put together a certain way, and if you see, the U-joints are in alignment. So this cap is aligned with that cap on the cardigan joint, but I want to make sure that they're the same right to left. So this side to this side exactly. So we're just going to put a little mark on the shaft right here, and that's going to tell us that it needs to index with this piece. So we'll put a little ding here and a little ding here with a Sharpie, and that way we know it goes back together that way. All right, so you can see I marked a red mark there and a red mark there, red there, and also right there, since we're going to be taking this joint apart. And then there and there. All right, so now that we got that apart, we gave this a quick tap, and that leaves us with the drive shaft and then this piece. And this is a 24 millimeter nut. And basically you just got to zip that off, and then we'll get that carrier bearing replaced. All right, so very important, you have a washer that you need to keep track of, the nut itself. There's an interior washer that goes on the inside right here. So we've got to keep that nice and clean. And then this is a little bit of a pain to get off. All right, you can see now that this is off, how much play it has. It is not supposed to be that way. Like I said, this next part is a little bit tough because the bearing itself is pressed on. So what I did was I sprayed some PV Blaster in here for the backside, and then we're just going to take this screwdriver and pry the rubber portion off, and then we'll get to the bearing itself. So now you can see the bearing right there. So that is pressed on, and so we've got to take a punch and a hammer and kind of beat that bearing off the press surface. Now I'm going to use a brass punch just because it seems to work better in my opinion, but you can use whatever you have to make it work. I swear I did not touch that. So that was kind of anticlimactic. Because it just kind of slid right off. So it's been my experience you have to hit that a couple times at least and not just once. And so just be prepared for that. There is a washer on the inside that rides up against the surface, so make sure you take that out. And we're just going to clean this surface really good because the new bearing rides on this piece. All right, so this is what the new bearing looks like. If you look on the inside, you can kind of see the grease channels, and the manufacturer states to fill those up with grease. So we got some grease from our grease gun. We're going to just pack it in there, and then we've already cleaned and then added some grease to this surface, which is where the bearing is going to ride, and then this surface, which is going to be where the seal is going to ride. And so we're just going to put some grease in that, and then basically we're going to take the new seal, orient it properly, the new carrier bearing, orient it properly, and then it's a press fit. So since we don't have a press, we're just going to use a socket and just kind of tap it on, and then we'll go ahead and install the nut and torque it. All right, so this has a front arrow on it, so that puts the bearing going this way because that's the front. I'm going to take a 1.25 inch socket because it matches up with the bearing face, and we're just going to tap it on. All right, so the next piece is this. And we just want to make sure this is clean because this is where that other seal rides. So it's got two shims, these two shims that came off. So they'll go back on, and that makes sure that the depth is set right. And then if you remember, we made the two marks on the flange and the drive shaft. So you see the red mark and the red mark, and so we're going to orient that so that they're the same. All right, so it is the nuts back on with the washer, those two shims to make sure that the depth is set right, and then we lined our marks back up, so everything is in good shape. So we're going to move on to the U-joints. Something to remember on these Toyota U-joints, or really any U-joint that uses this style, is they're a C-clip style, which means you have to drive the cap in to pop this C-clip off. And so the C-clip, which if you can see it, get that. So the C-clip right here slides in this groove right there, and you've got to drive the U-joint out or in to pop this out, and then you drive the other one that way, and that'll allow you to push it through. All right, to get the U-joints off, you just have to pound the caps in a little bit to pop those C-clips off, and then I'll show you how I pull the U-joints out. I'm going to just use a socket and an open ring from the clamp set, and just a basically you hit it down, pull the cap off, beat it back in, pull the other cap off, and the joint comes out. All right, once the cap gets pushed down like that, just take a pair of pliers and take the cap off. And it should just spin right off like that. Once you pull it off, take it, get the other cap kind of pushed back. And then you're just going to take a socket. I'm using a 18mm. Center that back in, and you're just going to beat it down and bring the other cap out. Same issue, just take the cap off. And then you can just rotate the U-joint out. Just pop the cap out. So that's how you do that. So we're going to take the other piece of the U-joint out, and then I'll show you how to put them back together. Putting them back together is much easier than taking them out. All right, so we got that apart. Everything's out and clean. So I'm using the Napa Brute Force. These are the UJ 285s. I'll put a description in our item description and thing below so you guys can see what I've gotten and add it to my Amazon store. The carrier bearing I bought a Dorman carrier bearing, and because I couldn't find a Toyota one, and you know, a lot of people don't like Dorman products, you know, but it's what I had available, and it's what I'm going to put on there. It's not that hard to do, and it's much better than what I had. So I've seen a lot of people use the Dorman one, so you know, the people that hate them are going to hate them, and that's okay. So the way the process goes to put the U-joints back together is basically you take a cap. Well, I'll show you. So the thing I like about these U-joints is this is on the end, so you don't have to worry about trying to get to the one in the middle. And you have your C-clips. And basically what I like to do is I like to take the caps off on one end, like that. And then I've already cleaned the inside of this, and so what I'll do is we'll gently put this in here like that. We'll take a cap, slide it over to make sure that the needle bearings are in good shape, and then push this one in. And so now this is where I like to use the press, just simply because it makes things so much nicer to try and put together. So you can just kind of put your impact on a gentle and just kind of slowly and then we'll take the C-clip and push it down, and then we'll reverse it and push this side in on here, and that way we can get this C-clip in on this side and then let it go. And then I've always just given him a good tap. And that's it. So we'll go ahead and do the other side, and then we'll start putting this thing back together. All right, so that's the finished project. That's the finished product. So new bearing, new U-joints here and here. These all look good. I just put some fresh grease in them. So pretty happy with how all that worked. We're gonna put everything back in the truck real fast, and then I'll kind of show you what it looks like installed, and then that's going to be the end of this video. So hope you guys have gotten something from it. Oh, the torque, I forgot to tell you, the torque spec for the nut that holds the carrier bearing is 135 foot-pounds. So you just run it in there until it's tight, and then torque it down, and you know, normal torque wrench. We'll go ahead and put this back together. Here we go. Back installed. Okay, so like I said, that was changing out the carrier bearing and 2 U-joints on your 1997 to 2004 first gen Tacoma. I'm sure that same method applies to some of the later yeared Toyotas that also have that center support bearing. So hope you guys got something from the video, and look forward to seeing you next time. This is Dan from Fisher Jeep Adventures, and we'll see you on the next video.